Welcome everyone to the Dr. Phil Show today. Thank you. Studio audience today. Our program is special today thanks to our generous sponsors at the Arkansas Cancer Research Center. We will be commercial free today because we have a captivating guest today on our show. June is Cancer Awareness Month. Our guest is Steve Harper. Steve is a family man, a grandfather, a longtime Sunday school teacher of young children, and Steve likes to refer to himself as an old gym rat. But most importantly, Steve is a cancer survivor. 3 years ago this month, this very month of June, Steve was diagnosed with prostate cancer. Please welcome to our show, Steve Harper. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Dr. Phil. Great to be here today. I'm a great admirer of your show, and I'm just so honored that you would invite me today to share a few ideas.
We're glad to have you. Steve, as I was preparing for this show, I just saw some statistics and problems that I just could not overlook. And I want to share them. You know them, you've lived them, but I want to share them with the audience. Prostate cancer is the second leading cancer death in men. It's the second leading cancer death in men. In Arkansas, more men die of prostate cancer than women die of breast cancer. We have the 10th highest death rate in Arkansas and the 33rd lowest number of new diagnoses in the state. Arkansas's African American men are 55% more likely to get prostate cancer and 176% more likely to die than the Caucasian man. Even though the death rate of prostate cancer has decreased in Arkansas, there has been a 60% increase in premature deaths. That's the problem. The solution is awareness, timely detection, more education, screening, improving all these to the 75 counties in Arkansas. And today we have a guest that will help us with that. Steve, you were diagnosed with cancer 3 years ago today. How did you discover that you had prostate cancer?
Well, I'm one of those that thought it would never happen to me, Phil, as most of the folks in this audience. But you lined up 6 men, and 1 in 6 are going to contract prostate cancer. So it's pretty staggering. But I was very fortunate. I consider myself blessed, if you will, in that as I was going through a new medical arrangement, new doctor, he was very thorough. He said, I want to take you through an entire battery of tests, Steve, as part of my initial consult with you. And in that exam, they picked up the fact that that's what they call the Gleason score, if you will. It was a Dr. Gleason, a very famous pathologist, that developed this grid, if you will, of how you measure the severity of your cancer situation. And a year before, I had registered, or what's called the baseline, if you will, a 2. And at this particular reading, a year later, I was 6.6. Pretty staggering. So it got my attention, and I've heard about the wow factor here earlier today, and yeah, that was a wow factor for me. It will put you right on your heel. But again, I was very fortunate, Lord looking after me. We sat down, talked about all the options. You may want to talk about that as we move through here, but there are a lot of different procedures you can take. But I had great folks around me, had great specialists, kept a good attitude because you just got to stay on top of it. A lot of it's between your ears, Bill.
Steve, you describe yourself as an old gym rat, and you look great for a man in his early 60s. You're just back from Florida and rested and ready.
Hey, feel good.
But were you having symptoms? What brought this on?
Good question. Being an old gym rat, which means that I was going to the gym, ladies and gentlemen, when it didn't smell good. Well, it wasn't. They didn't call it spas back then. They called it going to the gym. But I just kind of gravitated to it. And as I got older, I found out that this was the smart thing to do, because throughout my family, my dad's side of the family, heart problems were rampant. My dad died of a massive heart attack. His brother died. And His other brothers had open heart surgery, so it got my attention early on. That being the case, I was running hills and going to the gym all the time. So I thought I was in pretty good shape because I was zeroing in on the big ticker and doing what I could, at least on my end, watching my diet. But along comes the shock of my life, if you will. I never saw it coming, Phil. Never saw it coming. And I think that's true with a lot of men, is that, yeah, it might happen to my neighbor or the guy across the street or whoever's in the cubicle next door over here. But not me, because I feel great. And I felt great. Gee, just no telltale signs, no symptoms. But the smart thing, the one smart thing was getting my test annually. And I don't know if you got into your stats here, Phil, but once a man reaches age 40, it's pretty much mandatory. If you've got a history in your family of prostate cancer, then my word to the wise is start early. Because early detection is the key to this thing. Once those numbers start getting above 7, then it gets real dicey, as they say.
Steve, being a cancer survivor myself, what was your initial reaction when they said, Steve, you have cancer?
Well, that's a great question. It's somewhat of an emotional question, at least on my part, because I was in great shape physically. I'd just finished up a career in the Army Reserve and the military and so forth. We had 2 major physical fitness tests a year, and so the key to this was never get out of shape. Now, you've really sharpened up maybe the last 30 days prior to the test, but I never got out of shape. So that being the case, would you repeat that question again, please?
What was your initial reaction? How did you feel, okay, I guess?
That's
what was your
just a little brown.
Emotional, mental?
Just have a little age brown out here, yes. Bear with me. That's what the shocker was. I was in great shape, and so to say, yes, you've got it, you go through all the tests, the biopsies and so forth, and you think, well, maybe I'm just going to miss this bullet. Because there's a time, especially when you're under 40, guys, when you think you are bulletproof. And you just keep running hard, working hard, just racing at it. And it's just, you're oblivious. In fact, it might be out there. And the best thing I can do for myself is stay current on my tests.
Doesn't always happen to the other guy, does it? Once you were diagnosed, you had, I'm sure, several different treatment options, or is prostate cancer all treated just identical?
No, and I'm no expert. Certainly my wife reminds me constantly that there's not an MD behind my name. So this is just Steve Harper's layman's take on this. Yes, there are several procedures on this. I chose what's called the Da Vinci. This is the latest and the greatest, so to speak. There's a series of small incisions instead of one massive incision. You heal faster, and there's less wear and tear on your body. And from there, we went into 38 rounds of radiation. We're hammered pretty good with that. And I'm currently, you may have it in your notes over here, I'm currently on a hormone therapy program right now. And it has some interesting side effects.
What would be some of those side effects?
Well, I'll name just 3 for you. You know, on a hot day like today, when most guys get out of the shower, you kind of beat up for sweating. Well, I beat up a lot. Or I might just beat up in the afternoon, or I might just be beating up right now. Yes, thank you very much. That's number 1. I told you I'd give you 3. That's 1. The second one is that at least twice a week, I get a real good case of PMS.
We noticed it.
So, ladies, my heart goes out to you. You've had it long. You've experienced it longer than I have. And the third item of the 3 here is that I have to really guard myself, Phil, because I have a tendency as I'm driving down University Avenue between appointments or something, for my car to kind of veer into Dillard's and go shopping for handbags.
Do you like the big, fashionable bags, or you a small bag?
I'm not hung up on the size of the bag.
Steve, Steve. This has been a captivating program, and we're glad you can still laugh during this serious topic. Give this audience your biggest words of wisdom, and to men and to the women who have men they love. What should they do?
Well, as you mentioned here, but it's worth repeating, is guys, just heads up. Your family doc knows you, and you know your body, listen to your body, but in advance of that, stay tested. It's an annual thing. Just do it for your loved ones. Something I might close with, Phil, I don't know if you were leading me this way, but something that's really kind of come over me in these last 3 years especially, is how precious life is. And how every day I try to squeeze everything I can out of it. And another something in closing is that this really brings out the best in those around you, friends and family. You really see their true colors, their real character really comes to the surface. Not applaud my wife, she has an engineering bent. That's where my son gets that, by the way, not from me. But she doesn't have a medical bent, by the way, and she was a bona fide nurse all the way through the top drawer. So.
Well, thank you, Steve. You've been a wonderful guest, and thank you, everybody, for the time to do it.